Hello and welcome back. It is now October 7th. Beautiful morning out here. We had some really nice weather over the weekend. Things are coming along pretty well. I think most of the grain harvest in the area is now fully completed. Might still be a few acres of canola here and there, but let's take a look around and see what we're finding this week. Lots of stubble fields looking like this. Lots of the early barley that came off is seeing a lot of regrowth now. You can see we're, well into vegetative stage or stem elongation on some of this barley here now. Very, very little sign of any frost where I am here up by Carmangay this morning. But hopefully we do get a killing frost relatively soon. This field also does have some pretty thick patches of downy brome, which is what you can see here. This whole mat of it here with just the odd bit of barley here and there, all this downy brome. Great time of the year to get rid of downy brome is in the fall. Once it's germinated like this, you can take care of it before it has a chance to overwinter and be a problem next year. Corn silage is still coming off really good. This particular farm is about halfway done. I think there's about 2 pivots left to go after this one. You can really start to tell now the tops of these plants and the leaf material are really drying down after that frost. Now this is Pride 1027, so it is a flint type, so you do not see it dent quite so much on the side. You'll see the odd one like this one will, but for the most part it will not dent. Now these ears, when I break them open, they are 50 to 60% milk line, so we're at a good staging, and you can really tell this is Pride 1027 by the flattened appearance of that tip. But it doesn't affect yield. You can actually see there's probably more kernels on the end of this than there would be if it was a normal tapered head. But yeah, looks pretty good. Well, the silage pile is definitely looking a lot bigger this week. This time last week it only had a couple loads in it. Now it is much bigger and still 1 or 2 pivots left to go. Potato harvest is still ongoing, looking like we're getting towards the end. I think there's only maybe 1 or 2 quarters left after this one, so making good progress here. As long as we've got enough storage to fit it all in, it'll be a good year. This dryland field of pea stubble is coming along pretty good. It has been seeded into winter wheat just over a week ago. We're seeing some pretty good emergence now, mostly just, one leaf emerging. Still pretty small, so it's pretty difficult to fly the drone to check this from the air yet, but next week I will definitely be able to. This field did have quite a bit of wireworm in the spring, so I'm going to be keeping an eye on this one here this fall. There's not much we can do after seeding about wireworms, but it might give us a clue as to what we can expect to see in the spring if I find high populations. This field of corn by Picture Butte is coming along really well. There is minimal, if any, frost effect in this field at all at the moment here, which is getting to be unusual for, getting up to the middle of October here. This is a Pioneer hybrid, and last week, most of these ears were sitting at 50 to 60% milk line. We're a bit farther than that now, but there is still the odd one here and there that does still have quite a bit of milk in it. But some of these, in the next week or two, we're going to be hitting physiological maturity, so they're definitely starting to dry down. Kernels are getting quite hard, so we're going to get this silage here this week. Probably won't see it again until it's stubble. So far I have not found any sign really of any big cutworm patches or any cutworms really at all in it, most of these winter wheat and fall rye fields. So you can see here we got some pretty nice seed rows. In order to look for cutworms, we're going to be looking for gaps missing in them, which could also potentially be wireworms. That's why you got to dig to find out. Usually the first symptom, however, that you would see would be the tips of leaves getting chewed off as the crop is emerging out of the ground. I really have not been seeing much evidence of that at all, so that is a good thing, and hopefully it stays true for the rest of the season. Still a couple weeks potentially left of growing season for some of this winter wheat. It's now that time of the year we got to start talking about residual herbicide usage for next year. So if you want to do any fall residual this time of the year, usually we say around Thanksgiving weekend, which is coming up real fast here, like this weekend. But we also need soil temperatures to kind of average below about 10 degrees Celsius in order to maintain any real meaningful residual for next year. So let's measure a few soil temperatures and see where things are at. This field is seeded as winter wheat. It's relatively cool today. The sun is kind of hiding behind some clouds. Air temperature is only about 12 degrees. Let's see what our soil temperature is at here. So right on the surface, we're sitting at about 17 degrees right now. Once we scrape down about 1 inch, it's like right to the moisture layer here. Let's just check here. We're about 13.1, so 13 degrees. So definitely still a bit warm. We want to have that temperature down below 10. Here in this field that's been seeded to winter wheat, we do have a stand of chickweed trying to appear in a few places. There's a few patches of this throughout the field. Now this should not survive and overwinter, but it's still kind of interesting to see. Just a few isolated patches here and there, certainly not worth spraying the whole field for at this time of the year. Lots of the fall rye that was seeded in the last couple of weeks is looking pretty good. You can see we got real nice clean seed rows here, and not so much here. We got some barley that is emerging here. You can see exactly where the swaths and where the combine went through the field. This should look a lot different. So once we get the first real killing frost, this barley should yellow off and go down. The rye should stay pretty green. So the rye itself is looking pretty good. There's pretty much no sign of any cutworms, anything in here. But we are getting quite a bit of volunteer canola come up. This was a canola field last year, so no big surprise there. But once again, the frost will take care of this, and not too much else for other weeds in here. Beautiful warm afternoon here with some light wind. We're about 22 degrees air temperature here now. So let's take a look, see what our ground temperature is at. We're sitting at 20 degrees at the surface. In this canola stubble, we dig down about an inch. We're sitting at about 16 degrees, so still pretty good and warm here. Today I'm out here taking a look at a Timothy field. This field is looking pretty good. This is, of course, irrigated Timothy. We do have some dandelions going on in here, and that is the producer's major concern. You can see we have some established rosettes here. So these were probably either spring or last fall germination. So these are, some larger plants here. They'll be large again in the spring. We also have some new emergence. So this is coming up from this year's seed here. You can see there's a couple of these guys. Everywhere there's a gap in the crop, basically, you can start to see these little guys starting to pop up. So there's lots of different options going on that you can put on for dandelion control in Timothy. This is the right time of the year to get fall control on these germinating dandelions. So we're going to get something recommended for this guy, get these guys taken care of. Well, that'll be it for this week. A little bit shorter video than normal. I'm spending a little bit less time out in the fields and a lot more time in front of my computer looking through trial data and getting some plans put together for next year. So I hope you guys all have a good Thanksgiving weekend, and we'll see you next week.